Hello viewers, my name is Damilari. In this lesson, we'll be looking at living things and non-living things, especially the characteristics of living things. So this is still part of week 1 topic for first 10 biology. Now, what are living things? Living things are things that have life in them. While non-living things, they do not have life in them. Take note, virus appear as non-living thing when it is outside an organism. But once it's in an organism, it appears as a living thing. So our focus, which is characteristics. To get the characteristics of living things, just use the mnemonics Mr. Niger Lack or Mr. Niger D, where M means movement, R respiration, N nutrition, I irritability, G growth, E excretion, another R reproduction, then for lack, L for lifespan, A for adaptation, C for competition. Now, using these characteristics, we can differentiate between plants and animals. Starting with movement, we know movement means ability of organism to move from one place to another. But when it comes to plants, their own movement is limited. That's why they can just be shaking. So their own shaking is movement. And when plant is moving, it may be through the roots. When the root is growing downward, called geotropism, or when the branch is growing, that's also its own movement through phototropism. That means they are growing to the sun. While the movement of animals is unlimited, they can move from one place to another. They use their locomotory organ, like paramecium can use cilia. Mammals, they can use their limbs. We move to respiration. Living things respire, that means they take in air, they breathe in. For plants, they breathe in carbon dioxide, which is coming from animals. This respiration in plant, they make use of stomata inside their leaves, and they can also use lenticels inside their roots. But for animals, they breathe in oxygen, which is coming from the plants. They use their lungs if it is mammals. For fishes, they use their gills. For amphibians like toad and frog, they use their skin, or they can also use lung as well, or their body. Nutrition. Plants take in food through carbon dioxide. They take carbon dioxide, they take water, they take sunlight, they absorb minerals from the soil. That's how plants take their food and store it as starch. But for animals, they depend on other organisms for their food. We call this heterotrophic, when they are depending on organisms. But for plants, they are autotrophics. They don't depend on organisms. So for animals, some are herbivores, that means they eat plants, so they eat plants. While carnivores, they eat flesh. Omnivores, they can eat plants and flesh. Number 4, irritability. Plants respond to stimulus slowly. Like when you push plants, it will just shake to the left, to the right, just slowly. Just like mimosa, a plant that normally close when you touch the leaf. But for animals, they respond rapidly. Once you touch them, they respond rapidly to stimuli. That touch is a stimuli, by using defensive or offensive mechanism against the enemy that is touching them. Then snake poison can also be a stimulus, so they will also respond to that. Claw can be another way of responding. Some birds, they will use their claw to respond when you try to beat them or you do one thing to them. Some, they will use their horns like cow to respond. So, and some, they will completely fly away. That's like the birds, they migrate. So all these are their own response. Then number 5, we have growth. The growth of plants, when you hear growth, that's increase in size of an organism. So plants can grow in terms of their weight can increase, their dry or their wet weights. Their numbers of leaves can grow, can increase, the branches can grow, the fruits can increase, the height can grow, the cells in them, they can increase. Through cell division, they can elongate, they can be differentiated. So their growth is unlimited. That's for plants. Then in animals, their own growth is limited. They can have what we call sigmoid curve, meaning that once they get to a stage of growth, they will start bending. So especially human. So we have what we call lag phase. That's the slow level. So then later they will accelerate. Lag phase means that they will be growing slowly, but later the acceleration, they will start growing very fast. Then finally deceleration. Their growth, like they will start bending. Now number 6, we have excretion, talking about waste products. So plants can remove waste like alkaloid, the one they can use for drug. You can use letter D of the alkaloid to remember drug. Tannin, they remove this waste. Gum, excess water. When leaves are dry, they remove it as waste. So that's for plants coming from the stem, root or leaves. So, and this could be used by man. That's the waste of plants can be useful by man, or in soil. Soil can use this waste as fertilizer. Now for animals, their own excretion, they use special organs called excretory organ. Like in man, they use kidney to remove their waste, like urine. Nephridium can be used by earthworm. Skin also, we can use it to remove sweat. So CO2, urea, they are all wastes that can be removed. Then number 7, reproduction, talking about giving birth, producing new offspring by similar species. So for plants, they can reproduce either asexually, talking about using one, involving one organism, or sexually. So for asexual, you can do cutting. Maybe your sugar cane, when you cut it, you propagate it. That's asexual. We have what we call layering. You can lay your plant to the ground, pour soil on it, and it will also grow on from another end. Grafting, you can graft your plant like your orange. So they have what we call scion and stalk. So when you graft, you cut one, maybe for example, an orange that is sweet, you graft it with the one that is not sweet, so that it can reproduce sweet orange. Now, sexual plants can also reproduce sexually. So especially when you use their seed, that's a sexual reproduction, which can be cross or self-pollination. They can pollinate from the male to the female using all these agent of pollination, and they can fertilize, that is fusion of the male and female gametes. So sorry, I mentioned sperm the other time, which should be for animal, but for plants, their own sexual reproduction, like I said, they use seed. So we have what we call ovule. This ovule is the one that will turn to seed, and then we have ovary that will turn to fruit. Immediately there's fertilization, so the plants will produce the fruit. So that's their own reproduction. Now, asexual reproduction, the one that involves just one organism, that can happen in animals. In animals, they can reproduce asexually, that means one parent, by what we call fission. Fission means they can split either into two or more. Like bacteria, they can split into two, like the amoeba. Budding is another way of asexual reproduction in animals, so especially small organisms. Budding like in hydra, fragmentation just like in spirogyra. So then regeneration like in worms, spore formation like in rhizopus, in bacteria. Then yeast is also another organism that can also reproduce by asexual reproduction. So then there's also sexual reproduction in animals by fertilization, where the male will release sperm and female will release egg, then they fertilize. Now we move to L, lifespan, meaning that plant has their own lifespan. When you say lifespan, the time they will spend before they die. So for plants, their own lifespan is always longer than that of animals, especially when it comes to trees. So meaning we call it unlimited. Then for animals, their own lifespan is limited. Some they can use 7 days, some 1 year, 10 years, so different. So but their own is still limited compared to the lifespan of plants. We move to A, adaptation. Adaptation, that means how plants can adapt to their environment. For example, some plants have thick bark, so that fire will not be able to burn them, or penetration of organisms. Some, they have long roots to adapt to dryness so that they can get water under the ground. Succulents, some have water in their body, so against dryness. Some, they have thorny stem, so just like all these cactus. So then some, they have few needle leaves. Their leaves can look like needle. So just like all these the spruce. So we have spruce, so all those softwood. Then some, they have leaf shed. So all these are used to adapt to their environment. Then for animals, animals can also adapt. Like you see some animals having thick scaly skin. Their skin will be very thick, so they want to use it to adapt to their environment. Some will change their color like chameleon. So some special parts like hump, when you look at the hump of camel, is also to adapt because of absence of water in the desert. Then the last one, number 10, competition. That means how they will survival of the fittest. They try to talking about plants and how they try to compete for food. They do competition for food. So plants, you see them pointing upward. They call it tapering towards the sun. So they are doing competition. Which one will first get to the top? So they do competition. And that will cause tallness of plants and reduction in size. Instead of becoming very wide or guts very big, so they rather be growing taller when doing competition to the sun. They can also compete for nutrients, that's from the ground as well as water. So that's for plants. Why for animal, their own competition is by survival of the fittest. That means any animal that is very large, huge, so it will try to overcome those ones that are very small. So today we have looked at the living and non-living things, especially the characteristics and then the difference between plants and animals. Thank you for listening. Once again, my name is Damilare. Thanks for listening.